Hey, I'm Big Rick Stewart, host of the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack. Here, my show every Saturday and Sunday. I like to play some fun music and share some great information. Music from my time at Live 105, KFOG, KFOX, new songs, songs you know, songs you'll sing along to. I'll keep you company every weekend. Right now, here are some of the stories that I have recently shared on the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack at 99.3 The Vine. I'm Big Rick Stewart. It is the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack. Man, harvest. Man, working hard for harvest this year. And in the heat a little bit more. There is a saying, there's versions of the saying, that it takes a lot of beer to make a lot of wine. A lot of cheap beer to make a lot of great wine. You know, there's versions of this, but I think beer is consumed during harvest rather frequently, and maybe by people that don't always drink beer. Here's a list of some of the choices that some winemakers and more make, and this is an article published recently over at foodandwine.com. For Jasmine Hirsch, winemaker at Hirsch Vineyards in Sonoma, an ice-cold Modelo shared with the vineyard crew is the best way to cap a day's work, they say. And Jasmine says, I drink very little beer, but I make an exception during harvest. And they kind of, like many people at harvest, one of the maybe vineyard workers, harvest workers brings in some beef stew or something from home, and they all sit down, have this great meal, and it's kind of a lot of fun. It kind of keeps people bonded and ready to go. How about up in Oregon? How about some Rainier Lager? Now that's a real Pacific Northwest kind of beer, right? David Cho and his vineyard and winemaking teams, they say we drink Rainier during harvest. We call it Vitamin R. Pavle Milik, founder and winemaker at Los Miliks Winery in Elgin, Arizona. I hope I got those names right. Pavel likes athletic brewing. Now that's a non-alcoholic beer. Upside Dawn has a balanced note of spice, citrus, and an earthy undertone. And how about one of those unique beers maybe you never heard of? It is from the Screaming Eagle winemaker. It's $100 for 6 500 milliliter bottles, and it's Hannibee Lager. And it's a favorite of many, including Mark Gagon, who is the director of winemaking for the Fresh Wine Group, and it's supposed to be delicious. You got to get on the mailing list, I think. I'm Big Rick Stewart. Have one for me, maybe non-alcoholic, whatever you like. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack at 99.3 The Vine. I'm Big Rick Stewart. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack. Are you baking bread? Have you done that? I know this was a big COVID thing, and I got to it like, I don't know what, 2 years too late, but I can do some bread. Oh yeah, I can bake some bread, and I can feed my starter or my sourdough that lives in the fridge and all that stuff. I was terrified of doing all this, I have to be honest with you, but I took a class at Sur La Table, and I got this confidence to bake bread, and now, I don't think I'm baking the greatest bread ever, but it's not bad. It tastes pretty good. Here's a trick. And I saw this at some crazy news site. It just popped into my news feed. The trick involves ice cubes. First of all, you should try baking bread. Even if it's terrible, you put on butter and jam and you eat it. It tastes pretty good that way, right? And after maybe if you mess it up once or twice, you'll get the hang of it. It's not that hard. Look, a knucklehead like me can do it, so can you. And here's the thing. If you have like a Dutch oven, which is what you would bake your sourdough round in, you can throw in an ice cube. Now they say in this article, maybe a couple. What is that all about? Well, the steam kind of prevents things from drying out and, if you will, baking too early. And yes, I know it really does sound weird, but there are these things called steam ovens that are, kind of like a high-end kitchen thing for the homes. It helps in the crust formation. It ensures a perfect crunch on your sourdough bread when you throw a couple of ice cubes in there. It keeps it a little bit cooler at the start, and then it evaporates, and then your little round of sourdough is happy and brown, and you score it with a scissors or whatever, and it's got this beautiful little decoration, and it's yummy, and you put butter and jam on it, and it's extra yummy with an ice cube. So look up your favorite sourdough recipe and give it a try. I have confidence you can do this. I'm Big Rick Stewart. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack at 99.3 The Vine. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack. I'm Big Rick Stewart. You know that what's in a bottle of wine and what's on the label have to be kind of closely related, right? You can't just say Napa Valley wine unless it actually has Napa Valley wine in it. Or Cabernet Sauvignon, it has to have Cabernet Sauvignon in the bottle, right? There's percentages, it has to meet all these legal requirements and more. How about Hawaiian grown coffee beans? Did you know that you can have as little as 10% actual Hawaiian coffee in a bag labeled Hawaiian coffee? And unless you're paying well over, like, say, $20 to maybe $30 a pound for your Hawaiian coffee, it's probably got about 10% Hawaiian coffee beans. However, all of that just changed. They just passed a law in Hawaii saying that they've raised the mandatory percent of Hawaiian-grown coffee to a minimum of 51%, and that's going to come into effect in 2027. So if it's, Maui coffee, it's got to have 51%. Kona coffee, 51%. Right now, it can be down to as low as 10%. This is, they say, from the industry over in Hawaii, the right thing for Kona, the right thing for Hawaii, the right thing for farmers. But the demand actually has lessened. And this is because some of the big box stores and people that sell lots and lots of coffee, they don't want to buy all this and then have lawsuits on hand if they have some coffee that's been sitting around and have to deal with that. So actually the prices, they say, might be a little cheaper right now because those people aren't buying the coffee. Just kind of looked into this. So be aware that until maybe the next couple of years, you might be only getting 10% real Kona beans in your Hawaiian coffee or Maui beans, but that's going to change. And I think that's a good thing for the farmers and for coffee drinkers. I love Hawaiian coffee. I'm Big Rick Stewart. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack at 99.3 The Vine. I'm Big Rick Stewart. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack. You know, sometimes you see a date and you think, really, has it been that long? Well, it has been since 2018. That's when Lindsey Buckingham was kicked out of Fleetwood Mac by evidently an ultimatum issued by Stevie Nicks and maybe others in the band. He was replaced by the guitar player and the leader of the band Crowded House, and that is the very awesome and very talented Mr. Neil Finn. Played guitar. It was in the band. Also, former Tom Petty heartbreaker Mike Campbell was brought into the lineup as well. So what did Neil Finn think of all of this? Over at the Broken Record podcast, as relayed by Ultimate Classic Rock, Neil Finn says it was an amazing experience, like stepping into another life for a while. Wow. His involvement in the band was unexpected, and learning somebody else's songs, the way they put the song together, is fascinating. Getting deep inside because you think you know the song and the way it works, but when you actually have to learn them, you realize there's a whole lot going on. And man, Lindsey Buckingham, pretty amazing guitar player. What did he learn from playing with Fleetwood Mac? I learned that, a lot of bands are the result of, and music is the result of, 5 in that case, individuals having quite distinctive personalities musically, and then they kind of all bring that together. What is going to happen now that he has been in Fleetwood Mac? He's actually been inspired because Fleetwood Mac has reinvented themselves over the years, that Neil Finn has gone back and he has decided to resurrect the band Crowded House with his sons Elroy and Liam, as well as founding bass player Nick Seymour and keyboard player Mitchell Froome. Fleetwood Mac have redefined themselves so many times. They've been so many different kinds of bands. I related to that and I thought, oh, maybe I can do that. That's kind of a cool story. A nice positive spin. No comment from Lindsey Buckingham at this time. I'm Big Rick Stewart. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack at 99.3 The Vine. Hey, I'm Big Rick Stewart, host of the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack. Thanks for hanging out today. Man, that big storm that happened on the East Coast, from the Gulf and then up through Florida, and it just devastated so many places up through North Carolina and more. There are a lot of people helping out. And here's a group that helps out all over, whether it's tornadoes or these hurricanes, flooding and more. And they kind of have a unique take on how they help things out. They actually go there to help feed people. And it's really a bunch of barbecue enthusiasts. And they got those big barbecue rigs and they go to these competitions. Well, they also organize themselves to go to locations where they're needed, where there's first responders or people repairing power lines or just, residents or working, whatever. They don't really ask a lot of questions. They organize with local restaurants and people, and they're called Operation BBQ Relief. And they do such a great job, and they're there just to feed people hot meals, and they do like thousands of meals at locations, and in this case, all over from Florida all the way up to North Carolina. They're super organized. They've been doing this for a while, and I think it's just a great idea. So if you're looking to donate money or to want to find out about some really cool organization like this, check them out, obr.org, Operation BBQ Relief, and they are on site right now helping out, feeding people and giving people hot meals and, at least a little bit of a break and a little warm feeling as they're dealing with all these disasters. obr.org, Operation BBQ Relief. All right, check them out. I'm Big Rick Stewart. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack at 99.3 The Vine. I'm Big Rick Stewart, host of the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack. It's fun hanging out with you on these Saturdays and Sundays. Have you been out shopping to the big box stores? I was at Home Depot and Lowe's because Home Depot didn't have the thing I wanted and Lowe's did, so it worked out pretty good. And right in front, on one side, right when you walked in, was a big, giant Halloween display of really pretty incredible things and very expensive, like talking skeletons that were like 10 feet tall. And on the opposite side was all the Christmas decorations. Right now already. Oh, these things are happening. You probably already know these things happen a little early nowadays. Hey, speaking of this, I saw this story about a brand new Star Wars holiday collection. It's going to debut this coming October 7th, just, right away. And you can find it at DisneyStore.com. You can deck the halls with the Death Star and the Millennium Falcon. And how about the R2-D2 light up and sound living magic holiday sketchbook ornament? What? Whatever. All right, for you Star Wars fans, or maybe just movie fans, or audio fans, here is a little clip of a guy named Ben Burtt. You don't know who he is, but you've heard his work for years. He is the guy behind the Star Wars soundscapes, and he came up with the original sound of the lightsaber from those great early Star Wars movies. How did he come up with that sound? Well, let's have a listen.
On the campus of USC, I was a projectionist, and when you turned the projectors on, they hummed. I thought that was kind of a magical musical sound, and I recorded that motor hum, and later I added a buzzing sound from the back of my television set, and that became the basis for all the lightsabers. This is the projector motor hum. And then this is the sound of the picture tube. Okay. The blend of those two is... and then making a new recording of it with another microphone and swinging the microphone around in front of the speaker produces a Doppler effect.
That is Ben Burtt. He is the guy behind the lightsaber sound and much more of the really cool sounds that we hear in all the great Star Wars movies and more. I'm Big Rick Stewart. It's the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack right here at 99.3 The Vine. Those are some of the stories from the Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack. I'm Big Rick Stewart. Hang out with me Saturday and Sunday at 99.3 The Vine, 993thevine.com. If you want to stream, you can look for us there. And thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends that Big Rick lives on the podcast and on the radio. The Wine Country Weekend Soundtrack from 99.3 The Vine.